keep distance. All of my haters send best of wishes. I get to the bag with the quickness. No, I don't need no assistance. No, yeah, no playing it safe. I said let's get it, you say not today. What can I say? You ain't gon' go for it, get out the way. Yeah, got no time to waste. Can't be with me if you're not at my pace. You're not at my level, you're not in my race. One foot on the gas, I'm pushing the brakes. Dancing with the devil, there's no recital. I'm killing competition, ain't no revival. I shoot it to kill it, I'm aiming for vitals. I'm showing no mercy when facing my rivals. Snakes in the grass, they getting exposed. I know they be lurking, I'm watching them close. Acting like friends, but really they foes. Saw they be scheming and said adios. Yeah, I gotta get it. Get it, don't mind it. I gotta get it, don't mind it. I gotta get it, don't mind it.
The iRacing IndyCar Open Series heads to the Auto Club Speedway. For the second week in a row, we're live from the west coast of the United States, this time heading to the high banks and the high speeds of the Auto Club Speedway. Hello everyone, and welcome back to a Monday night. Welcome back to your regular dose of IndyCar action. Hot off the heels of an exciting races on the streets of Long Beach, both in the real and virtual worlds. We'll see what's in store for us today as we flip-flop disciplines once more. My name, as always, is Arjuna Kankipati, joined alongside by my Powerslide Motorsports teammate in Andrew Kinsella. We're nearing the halfway marker of this season, Andrew. Somewhat crazy when you think about it like that, but we've had a pretty entertaining season so far, and that puts it a little bit mildly. Here's a look at the schedule that we've seen so far. 3 races on the west coast of the US. Next week we head to the Green Hill for some fun and to reach the halfway marker. But 100 laps at Auto Club, it's always a place which is pretty frenetic and a pretty cerebral race as well.
It's been a wild start to this season. We've had lots of drama through the first 4 races, but here at Auto Club Arjuna, I think that drama is going to be magnified. There's so many lanes here at Auto Club. It's so wide. There's so many ways to get around the track. I think that we're going to be in for some fantastic action here today.
Good look at the second half of your schedule as well, which is on the horizon. The Green Hell in a week's time. I'm sure we'll see some new faces and plenty who may have just finished up their running in the first of your VCO Grand Slams in 2022, the 24 hours of the Nürburgring. Here's a look at how... That's not how the championship lines up. Here's how the championship lines up with those races in the books. Of course, do remember that out of the 12 weeks, only the best 8 will count. So it's really hard to get a sense of how things are looking. Of course, Adam Blocker missed the race a week ago, which saw Brandon Traino and Casey Kerwin duke it out to the very end of the race. But ultimately, Blocker's got a bit of a task on his hand, Andrew. We do know that he's likely to miss many more races, especially coming up to the month of May.
Yeah, it's a tough situation for Blocker as he tries to defend his crown. If I'm looking for a power slide contender, though, I might be looking at that 7th place of Alexander Van de Sande. He might be power slide's best hope at retaining here, but right now we have 2 teams at the top and neither of them are power slide. It is really I5G who's got a stranglehold on the first and second positions with Brandon Traino and Alexis Newsom, but then Adam Crane is doing a fantastic job, tied actually with Alexis Newsom so far on points. And then you have some of the other teams. You have Connor Harrington for Team Talent, private label Team Hype, and then some of the independents, David Porcelli, Rashad Craig. This is definitely a season where it's not necessarily just the big teams that are dominating. There's some good mix of drivers and teams all throughout the top 10 there.
It's funny you call out David Porcelli as an independent. Rumors and sources indicate that Porcelli no longer by himself. He has joined up with the Satellite Racing camp, which won't see Porcelli in today's race. Might have been bumped to a lower split, but Adam Crane will be joined by Alexander Russell. The time for talking is done. The time for racing is upon us. Let's go trackside here in Fontana to take a look at your starting grid for round 5 of your 2022 Season 2 iRacing IndyCar Open Championship. Took a while to get there, but Christopher Demerit will line up on pole position on his return to a Monday night. Alongside will be Robert Malechka, the electrifying driver in qualifying, although having said that, I don't believe that these results are the correct ones. Let's see if we can get that dialed up very quickly. Here we go. It's an I5G lockout of the front 3. Demerit, Oster, and Newsom control the start of this race. Connor Harrington lines up on the outside of row number 2, while Robert Malechka and Brandon Traino, your championship points leader, share row number 3. The Hyperstar makes it 5 I5G cars inside the top 7. He'll be alongside Marco Brazil with Adam Blocker and Alexander Van de Sande for Powerslide Motorsports completing the top 10. Alexander Russell and Adam Crane, a Satellite Racing affair on row 6, while Chris Wilhite and Trish Shadid 13th and 14th. Mark Murphy and Rashad Craig 15th and 16th. Then Robin Glenix, and with some work to do, Matt Hollabaugh, who does like to charge his way up through the field. Only one car does not set down a qualifying lap time, and that is Ben Rinaldi, the New York native. So 100 laps here, Andrew. We do have the correct starting grid, which is something to see, but you also note these track conditions. It's pretty warm. We're racing in the middle of the day. Now, Auto Club tends to race at some pretty cool temperatures. You see that in the air, but not reflected in the track here today.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a sunny California day here today, Arjuna, and the track temp definitely reflects that. Again, just that nice sort of brisk breeze, maybe cooling it off just a little bit, and it will probably play a little bit of a factor here, not as much as we've seen at some of the other races where we've seen much higher wind speeds, but even at 11 kilometers an hour on a track like this with the cars as trimmed out as they are, that could definitely play a part, especially in dictating how these cars handle sort of later on in the run when the tires just don't have as much grip as they used to.
Now, I know I'm in Northern California and Fontana is Southern California, but I can tell you that it's 30-mile-an-hour winds, at least for me, so it's somewhat representative of what we're due for today. You talk about setups, you talk about the fact that the cars are trimmed out as well. What does that mean with the in-car tools, Andrew? How will they be using them to work their way around what is quite a wide racetrack?
The in-car tools will be incredibly important today, especially keeping the tires underneath these cars. This track surface is old, it's very abrasive, and it's notoriously difficult on tires. So keeping the car underneath them throughout the course of the day is going to be very, very important.
So 100 laps as we work our way closer and closer to the halfway point of Season 2 in 2022 of your iRacing IndyCar Open season. It's a dominant qualifying performance for Team I5G. 3 cars at the front of the field, but what can those around them do? The green flag flies. We're racing in the Golden State, and Connor Harrington down the middle, 3 wide, as Newsom and Oster try and cycle into line. Malechka dives down low. Nice clean start, but already look at how aggressive they're getting.
Really nice start from a number of drivers. Brandon Traino looking to make it 3 wide on the outside. I don't think Connor Harrington got the best start there, but we're already seeing 3 wide down the backstretch. That was Marco Brazil on the outside, Adam Blocker on the inside, 3 wide through turn 3. These guys are not going to let up until these tires start to go off.
And what point are we kind of expecting that to happen, Andrew? I know fuel may be a big concern as Brandon Traino goes all the way around the outside. Newsom shuffled back slightly on the start, but when will those tires start to feel the pain?
Conditions like these, Arjuna, I would say that's probably going to be a little bit later on in the stint, maybe about 7 to 10 laps will be really start to notice it, but already, especially at the front, I think you're going to see it stretch out a little bit before that.
Brandon Traino's gone to the point after starting down in 6th, leads the race with 2 of our 100 laps complete. Looks like a bit of a bobble though for his teammate Alexis Newsom, running into some strife. Sees Adam Blocker and Robert Malechka behind. There's the first fastest lap. Of course, they'll swap around for the lead of the race. They'll swap around that fastest lap as well, and Jacob Oster takes the point. How important is the swap draft going to be here today?
Yeah, these long straightaways, the swap draft is going to be really, really effective. If you can get it, especially with a teammate like Traino and Oster right here, that can pull these cars around, especially you look at Christopher Demerit. He's in prime position to do some fuel saving behind his teammates, and what they're hoping for is that the likes of Alexis Newsom, Connor Harrington, Adam Blocker, they keep fighting back there, and maybe this trio at the front can just start to go away as... Oh, that was very close coming off of 2 there.
Yeah, that's Alexis Newsom, excuse me, who slid all the way up the track and will lose 2. I think Blocker and Malechka will get on past his trainer back to the point of the field, as now Malechka dives down low on his teammate, and there's where some of that coordination will come into play. Those 2 will know what that car down low is going to do, and so Blocker giving just enough space and will now cut off the momentum of Alexis Newsom. Already what I am seeing though, Andrew, is cars willing, as Newsom proves there, to run all the way up against the wall.
Yeah, so the interesting part with Auto Club is you have a number of different options through the corner. You saw Newsom run the whole time on that outside, but you also saw Adam Blocker just in front of her. He started right at the wall, but then he took sort of that second lane on exit, and it really allowed him to sort of get some momentum off the corner and get by his teammate down that back straightaway there. So there's a number of different ways to get through these corners, especially turns 1 and 2, and I think you're going to notice a number of different lines throughout the day. And you even see some teammates feeding teammates dirty air, as you just saw with Alexander Van de Sant right there.
Yeah, it was a send, full send to the inside through turn 1, and Newsom tries to get the up and under, but I think might now get stalled out, and if it's going to happen, the defense from that i5G white and red machine, it will be sliding up the track, but Van de Sant is there, will hold on for the time being, as up towards the front. Looks like Connor Harrington has passed Christopher Demerit and now tries to set to work on Oster and Traino. But it's quite difficult if you've got 2 cars at the front of the field working together for that third car to really try and make its way forward.
Yeah, especially when that third car is not on the same team as the top 2. It's going to be very difficult for Connor Harrington, but he has looked very strong here in this early going. Another driver who's looking in on the inside there, Adam Blocker, and you notice all 4 of those drivers were taking in the top 4 different lines through the corner. That just shows you how important clean air is going to be throughout the course of this day, Arjuna.
Here comes Blocker down low onto Merritt, trying to shuffle your pole sitter back. Just look at the array of lines that really can be run here. Demerit, we know he likes to favor that upper groove at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, but making good use of that here as well, as Traino will duck down low once more, trying to sweep his way back to your race lead. 19 cars started, 19 cars still running, only split by about 4.2 seconds. There's a bit of separation between 15th and 16th, but other than that, Andrew, we are looking at one big old pack right now.
Yeah, it's definitely one big pack, and as you say, it doesn't look like there are too many drivers really struggling for grip at this point. So So far, so good, I think, for most of these drivers, especially if you're in that top 10, top 15 area. That's sort of mission accomplished for this first portion of the race. And now I expect it to settle down just a little bit. But that being said, Adam Blocker is definitely going wheel to wheel here with Connor Harrington and Christopher Demerit down this front straightaway.
Yeah, will get his way up into the podium spots for the first time today. Already +6. Big mover as well in the form of Brandon Traino, of course. No real other big movers up through the field, as it looks like Alexander Van der Sant is going to try and now battle with his teammate, with Alexis Newsom having worked past the both of them. But the biggest loser likely to be Christopher Demerit, of course, starting at the front, but shuffled now back to 4th as a race leader changes. Adam Blocker maybe questioning what I was saying before, where if you've got 2 cars at the front working together, you can't pass. The Powerslide Motorsports driver leads across for lap number 10.
Definitely a power move there from Adam Blocker, letting the i5G contingent know that he is here to play here today, Arjuna. It's he hasn't been able to race all the races, and he won't be able to race all the races, as you mentioned earlier on, but when he's here, he definitely likes to make his presence felt.
Love the sound of an IndyCar flying past that camera into turn 3. Of course, we've talked about this so many times before, but despite the fact that Auto Club put on a pretty great show when the NASCAR Next Generation machines came to visit at the start of 2022, we do expect that this facility will, of course, be reprofiled, reconfigured, and chopped down into a short track. So gone will be the super speeds and the open wheel legacy of this track, but a new path, a new chapter at Fontana to be laid down. We'll see how things play out, but of course it's sad. You think about some of the great finishes that IndyCar has seen here, both in the virtual, but of course the real world as well, Andrew.
Yeah, absolutely. This is one of those tracks where it just can't help but produce some great action, both in the Cup Series, but especially in the IndyCar. It's always been, no matter the era, one of those tracks is just must-see television, whether it was those Hanford devices of the late 90s, early 2000s, whether it was the more pack racing style of the IRL, and then that craziness, of course, in the early 2010s with the DW12. It's always never failed to produce really good action here. So definitely will be sorry to see it go whenever that happens. The good news is that it does seem to be staying around for maybe at least another year or two before that happens. So definitely a positive the longer we keep this big circuit. At least in my books it is.
Now, is there enough time for Roger Penske to break the checkbook out and bring this back under his wing? I would hope so. Oster's going backwards now. Harrington's managed to get past the green and gold. Here comes his teammate Demerit too. Van der Sant and Malechka managed to get back out in front of Newsom. Seems like plenty of changing there as down low, Connor Harrington slides his way to the race lead.
Oh, and Brandon Traino very nearly gets an Adam Blocker coming off of 2 there. Traino got a massive face full of aero wash there. Had to get all the way off the throttle and nearly drifted up into Adam Blocker anyways. So that i5G stranglehold that we saw at the beginning of this race, that is no longer the case. It is now Team Talent, followed by Power Slide, followed by an i5G car, and then more Power Slide right behind. So it is definitely, I don't see one team right now having a distinct advantage over the other at this point in the race, at least.
It is also that sort of a race, right, where you're very much more focused on being flat out for vast majorities of this lap. Of course, you will lift in traffic and to try and get the car rotating a little bit more, but when everyone is already at the maximum performance of the car itself, there's only so far you can go to try and run away with things, Andrew, and that's why a race like this, and even slightly warmer temperatures that we're seeing today, they do produce this sort of pack racing as Van der Sant's found his way forward, now up into 4th.
Yeah, it's been a strong, steady climb for Alexander Van der Sant so far in this race, but one of the things you'll notice, Arjuna, is that in addition to everything that you were just talking about, one of the most important things that we'll see throughout the course of this day is momentum and being able to keep up your speed and not have to breathe the throttle like we saw Brandon Traino do, because breathing that throttle at a place like this, it can cost you not just one position, but multiple positions, as we've seen a number of different times, but they're still going 3 wide at the front. I don't know that they're listening to me at this point.
Yeah, 3 wide seems to be the norm rather than the exception, at least for now. Now, a bit of separation is formed, but I think Van der Sant might have got a little bit too tight down low, and he cycled back in the field. although he's closing again. That gap had opened up very slightly. Still, all 19 cars looking nice and tidy as we approach lap 20 of this race. Fuel window, but what are we looking at, Andrew?
It's on the longer side today. I don't have the numbers right in front of me. Give me 1 second. Let me see if I can find them.
We'll see how things will play out. Again, look at the speed. Ramping off of the corner, upwards of 360 kilometers an hour. It is frightening, and I was having this conversation with Nick Damon over the weekend where we were talking about tire bills and being glad that those aren't real. I'm glad that when we get a big crash, because it is very much when, not if, that the crash repair bill is also going to be virtual, and any injuries very much virtual as well. Blocker back to the point with 19 laps complete, working lap 20. Bit of shuffling in the midfield as well. Looks like Brendan Lichtenberg struggling to try and find his way forward as Harrington tucks down low. Now, you see all this fighting, Andrew, and you do start to wonder, the harder they fight, the more likely they actually are to lose the draft in front. The gap between 7th and 8th, over 1 second now.
Yeah, absolutely. They're right in that danger zone of losing that draft. It does go back a little bit farther, but once you get past about 1.5 seconds or so, it's very, very difficult to keep up that momentum in order to gain it back, and it'll be a trickle back rather than really being able to draft up. And if they keep on fighting like they are now, that will go away entirely. But I think one important thing to mention here is who exactly is in that first pack versus that second pack, because we have Alexis Newsom, Jacob Oster, and Brandon Lichtenberg, who all started up front and are now well back in that second pack. So that i5G car, it seems to be working well at the front of the field, but it doesn't seem to be working very well in traffic right now, Arjun.
I mean, I'll take your point, and I'm not trying to disagree with you too strongly here, but I'd also put the counterpoint as Treno and Demerit not having as big an issue, at least for now. Gaps closed very slightly, and that is important as we look top and bottom at that lead group, the peloton chasing them down. The likes of Trace Shadid, Rashad Craig, Ben Rinaldi, and Matt Hollaba that were in danger at one point of losing the group in front of them have, at least by virtue of this hard fight, been brought back into the mix as, again, they fan themselves out 3 wide. Brandon Treno trying to go all the way around, the long way to get back to the front.
Yeah, and I think that's what's saving Treno and Demerit right now is just the ability to roll that top side and get some clean air. And that's what Newsom, Oster, and Lichtenberg can't do, is they can't find any clean air in front of them, or at least they haven't been able to so far. So that's really what's separating, I think, one half of the i5G team from the rest of the team at this point in the run. But yeah, it just looks like at this point in the race, really that team talent car of Connor Harrington and that power slide car of Adam Blocker, they're just looking very, very strong right now.
Look like Van de Sant jinking down low to try and move to the inside of his teammate. You can then see just behind these cars, that gap to that second group has basically disintegrated. Now they are still somewhat strung out with Newsom leading the likes of Russell, and behind them Murphy, Wilhite, and Oster, but they're closed back in. And again, we're in for a bit of a party. If we get green flag pit stops, Andrew, this is also not an easy place to roll off the speed, not just because you've rolled off the downforce, but you've got a rather bumpy entry as you come off of the banking.
Yeah, I don't think that there's a square inch of Auto Club that is not bumpy in some way, shape, or form, Arjuna, but it is definitely a very tricky pit in. The other thing is that the setup of this car, it really makes you lock up that left front tire and potentially basically makes you miss that pit entry, because if you do lock up that tire, it just shoots you well faster than you were expecting to. And I do have some fuel numbers here for you, courtesy of Jason Brophy. He is saying that right now Connor can go 38 to 39, but can probably do as many as 43 laps if he's fuel saving. So that's your fuel window for this race right now.
So it's a definite two-stop. The question will be, how do you work around that? We'll wait and see. Here's a look on board with the Canadian Adam Crane as he sits quite comfortably in P7. Of course, riding 4th in the championship coming into this round. Out of turn 4, Jason Brophy self-deprecating as always, saying that pit entry will be fine. He's not there. But we have seen, and I don't want to throw a teammate under the bus, but even Alexander Van der Sant has proved that pit entry in an IndyCar is difficult. Alexis Newsom had her own struggles midway in 2021 in the Lionheart Speedway Series, so no one is infallible. That is definitely something to be thinking about, as 27 laps are now in the books. Still an all-out brawl at the front of this group, where Traino, Harrington, Block are all just swapping around and leading laps. I think Demerit's not in an awful spot, though. Yes, he's often running up high and, you know, a little bit further around the track, but might be able to do a bit of fuel saving because he's not popping out too aggressively, maybe just rolling off the throttle as they work into the corners.
Yeah, I've been watching Demerit, and he's basically just been content to sit exactly where he is. Every time that he comes under fire from the likes of Van der Sant or Malechka or Crane, he does defend a little bit, but as soon as they sort of back off, maybe to get a little bit checked up, Demerit just goes right on back to sitting here and just saving fuel, saving tires, saving his car. And it's such a prototypical Christopher Demerit move, because he's a veteran. He knows that these laps right here, they matter, but at the end of the day, they don't really matter. What matters is those last 10 laps of this race, and as long as he's positioned, then he's going to be a threat for those last 10 laps.
And he just seems to be able to find a way to make that higher line work, no matter which racetrack we go to. If there's a possibility that the outside line will work, you better bet that you will see Christopher Demerit up there and making it happen. I wonder if Jacob Oster has a bit of damage, because he's now about 1.2 back from Chris Wilhite in 11th. There you see the purple and white just coming across the line, and Oster sliding further backwards lap after lap here.
He very well could at this point, Arjuna, because he's definitely well off the pace of even his other teammates at this point. So, although I say that, but then Brendan Lichtenberg is also way back in 16th place. So, I don't see anything visually wrong with the car at this point, but it could be something small. It could be some under tray damage, or it could just be that the setup that i5G may have split the setup, and the setup option that that Oster and Lichtenberg are on just isn't working in these conditions. So it could be any number of factors if you ask me, but I just don't see any damage right now.
Could also be just falling behind on in-car tools and having to be reactive rather than proactive, as Harrington down low looks to the inside. Chris Wilhite trying to get on past Alexander Russell in that number 12 just for a spot inside of the top 10. Russell's teammate Adam Crane now works on Malechka as Wilhite's come down to pit lane. A bit early, but again, since you're guaranteed to require 2 stops, Andrew, what do you think about this strategy call?
I don't hate the call, but I would have liked to see someone come down the pit road with Wilhite to give him some drafting and potentially utilize the fresh tires to really swap draft and get themselves up. Him being on his own right now is going to be very, very tough for him to really get back up to speed, because while the draft does produce a lot of aero push, as we saw Adam Crane nearly get into the wall there, it also produces a lot of top speed down these straightaways, and it really will be difficult for Wilhite to maintain the speed he needs to not lose any positions here.
So a lap time here is about 30 odd seconds, 32 plus. Pit delta just for the lane is 41 based on Chris Wilhite. So you see him coming out of that pit access road right now, while your leaders are still rolling through turn 4. So that's what you were talking about, Andrew. He's not going to have anyone giving him a tow, and we'll try and see what the lap times will be like compared to the rest of the field.
As we see back at the front here, this action is still going strong and steady, and it's worth noting now that we do have a little bit of a 5-car breakaway at the front. Adam Crane and Robert Malechka, they were sort of mixing it up together, but the car that's on the move is that purple and white car down to the inside. What a move from Van der Sant, but it just doesn't look like that car wants to stick, but he really put it into that turn 3 there.
Yeah, we are towards the tail end of the fuel and tire run, so that was bold, but I can understand why you go for it. If you've got that much speed entering the corner, you've got 2 ways. You either use it or you lose it. And Van der Sant very much in the camp of, I'm going to use it, but it might open the opportunity for those behind to close up again. The gap between Van der Sant now is opening up very slightly to those in front of him, and so he's very much towing the pack in front. Leader's lap time last time around was a 32.539. Chris Wilhite, who of course boxed early, 32.481. So it's quicker, but not that much quicker, as Connor Harrington and Adam Blocker actually put in 32.3s this time around.
Yeah, there's not enough in it at this point to make it worthwhile for Wilhite. The one thing that he can potentially do is maybe if he's underfueled the car a little bit, that could potentially get him a little bit of lap time and a little bit of more tire life. But basically what Wilhite, I think, is trying to do is just split this as evenly as possible. But I think in the next very few laps here, this is right on this 37-38 lap number, we're going to start seeing these leaders in, and then we're really going to see how it shakes out for the likes of Chris Wilhite.
Trace Shadid has also come down to pit road, so 2 of the 19 have cycled through pit lane for the first time today in a 2-stop race. Adam Blocker coming down low. I think that indicates to me that number 5 should be working onto pit road this time around, and indeed as he slows his momentum off of turn 4, he's coming in alongside Connor Harrington. Both cars locked the brakes up, but I think they just about got through there safely without any sort of a pit road penalty. Also working onto pit lane, Robin Glenix and Marco Brazil.
Yeah, we are definitely into the meat of the pit cycle here, and I think that we're going to see a number of the other leaders come down and sort of cover off this strategy. Probably, I would expect certainly Van de Sant and Demerit to come down this time by as well. Demerit is staying out now that I say that.
Yeah, Demerit, Traino staying out. Looks like Van de Sant is boxing. And he's going to be followed in by his power slide teammate Malechka. Also Mark Murphy, Alexander Russell working on through. There you can see Blocker has managed to head off Harrington in the pit road, despite the fact that they came in alongside one another. He's going to try and get back up to speed, and we should see the Team i5G cars then down to pit road this time around. Working lap 40, Demerit hugging the white line. Is he going to slow the momentum? Yes, he pivots left, and 2 other cars do extend, but I think now we're just about that magic 40-lap number where you'd expect the cars to be in.
Yeah, so that's Adam Crane and Alexis Newsom extending it out just a little bit farther, and of course what they're trying to do is maybe come up with a lucky caution here, especially with everybody pitting here. It's very easy for a mistake to happen on this long pit exit as well. So not a bad call, I would say, for Crane and Newsom, and it'll definitely mean that they take on less fuel later on in the stint, but at the same time, you can see just how much of an advantage Adam Blocker had. He's got a good size gap to Connor Harrington, and it's Van de Sant has just about stayed in their draft there, but it was a close deal for him.
And he did see the separation that Harrington had then to Van de Sant as well. I would suspect that Blocker with the momentum should at least get Traino, and I think Demerit too, as they round themselves off of the banking at turn 2. Traino slots back into line. Harrington's got the momentum, and they'll both go down low on Demerit. But I think cycling through to the end of this race, you'd likely think the Team i5G car's in a slightly better position to try and short fuel at the end of this race.
Yeah, it's all about that fuel load at the end. It'll be interesting as well to see, because we went basically 40 laps for all of the lead drivers. So that means there's 60 laps to go. So halfway through this final stint, or these final 2 stints, is about 30 laps. So that's well within the fuel window. So it'll be very interesting to see who of these leaders underfilled their car this stint, and who's going to go as long as they can and maybe underfuel it on the final stint. So definitely a lot of strategy at play here for these drivers to think about as they're trying to position themselves for the win.
So in terms of how the cycle has stretched things out, you've got Adam Crane, who we're looking rearwards from right now, trying to fend off Malechka and also pull his way up the 0.6 of a second that he finds himself behind the leading 5 cars. But Blocker, Harrington, Demerit, Traino, and Van de Sant all looking comfortable. Van de Sant again going down low, just trying to work his way forward. Crane, Malechka make the 7 that are breaking away at the front. Then Newsom's in a bit of no man's land. 1.2 seconds by herself off the back of Malechka, but then 2.7 back to Mark Murphy, who sees Jacob Oster and Alexander Russell right behind him. So really has blown up, I think, the strategy in some ways. And I will note that for Chris Wilhite, who had the shortest pit time at 8.2 seconds of them all. He had the longest pit road time of the entire field, Andrew.
Yeah, I think that Wilhite was just a little bit too cautious coming in, and ultimately I think it's cost him a few positions here as it's all cycled through. But definitely want to highlight just how important it was for Newsom to come out in contact with Rob Malechka here, and it's allowing her to slowly but surely stay on the back of that leading 7, and so it's really an 8-car breakaway at this point, and then 9th through 10th, they're basically hoping for a caution here. Rashad Craig back down pit lane, and he's retiring the car, or at least towing the car from just before his box, so it definitely looks like possibly some damage for Rashad Craig that he wanted repaired there. Yeah,
might have ran into the wall. We'll see if we can figure out what happened to him. Well, not in the worst of positions, I'll tell you, but definitely not in a great position. Remember, sometimes you need that tow even on pit lane to try and get some steering damage fixed on the car, as Blocker will run his way back to the front. It's now very much a 7-car party at the front of this field. Newsom just about holding on, and in fact is closed now within 1.5 of your leader. There's the second group. It's a 3-car fight there. I think rightly so. All attention is going to be focused at the front of this field, Andrew. It's been fast, frenetic, and very, very close at times, but not even halfway through this race.
Yeah, and I think what's impressed me the most throughout the first half of this race is just how well these top 7 have really been able to follow. To be honest, I thought it was going to get even more spread out than it already has, but these top 7 and soon to be top 8 with Alexis Newsom really have been able to do a good job of following each other and finding clean air and staying close and using that draft down the straightaways. So I think if the first half of this race is any indication, we should be in for a banger of a finish here in the second half.
48 laps about to be in the books here as Blocker finds his way back to the front again. 3 names so far. 4 names, I guess, technically. Blocker, Harrington, Demerit, and Treno have led the majority of the laps. Van der Sande has looked aggressive. Crane has been quietly patient, biding his time, plotting his move. Malechka's been back and forward, along with Alexis Newsom. But once you're 7 cars back in line, basically, the dirty air that you've got is pretty considerable, isn't it, Andrew? As we look at Marco Brazil looking down low, Wilhite and Lichtenberg will swoop around his outside.
And this is sort of a third pack that's got going on with Lichtenberg and Brazil in the battle for 12th here, and they're a further, I think it's 2.5 seconds back of that fight with Oster, Russell, and Murphy for that 9th place. But yeah, you said it, the clean air, and especially when you're 6-7 cars deep in the pack, having that dirty air in front of you, it's a really, really tough to deal with, and you have to be very much on your toes. You have to understand how to back the corner up and keep your momentum up if you're going to be able to stay in contact. And I think that's what's caught out some of these drivers so far in this race, is they just wasn't quite attacking the track quite right, and it's just cost them a shot, particularly looking at the likes of Brendan Lichtenberg and Jacob Oster. It's cost them that lead draft.
Oster's having some fun, though, with Alexander Russell in that peloton that's 5 seconds adrift of your top 8 cars. Still a ding-dong brawl at the front, where Adam Blocker still holding off Connor Harrington, Christopher Demerit, Brandon Treno, and Alexander Van der Sande through the top 5 with half the race very much now in the books. 1 pit stop to go. Is there any sort of strategy that you think these cars could be playing as they fan themselves almost through 5 different lines through turn number 1?
Yeah, I suspect there's a number of different strategies going on here, actually, Arjuna. I think that, so you look at Harrington and Blocker, they really, really want to be at the front of this field. They want to take advantage of that clean air and go as fast as they possibly can, keep all the action behind them. Then you look at the next 2, Demerit and Treno. They're just really content to sort of just ride here behind the 2 other cars and just save their tires, save their equipment, save their fuel, and see what happens. Then you look at Alexander Van der Sande and Adam Crane, and then to a lesser extent Malechka and Newsom behind them. What they're really trying to do is they're trying to search for a way that they can find past these top 4. Not necessarily for right now, but for later on in this race, because it's going to be so difficult for them to pass without finding a way now and finding what that special line is going to take, because it's very, very difficult once you're 5, 6, 7 cars to actually make that run happen up towards the front of the field. So they're doing all the homework that they can right now.
I call it the data gathering, the data downloading into your brain, run the algorithms and plan out those last 5 laps. When do you think you make a move here, Andrew?
It all depends what the car is doing and what it's telling you, especially if you're, let's say you're Alexander Van der Sant, you extend this stint out as long as you possibly can, and then you'll have maybe 20, 25 laps left on your stint, or on your final stint here. So that means that your tires are going to be as fresh as they can be. I'd say you probably have 15 laps to really enjoy that, maybe as much as 20 with the lower fuel level. So if you haven't made a move up towards the front of this field by about 10 to go, if you're Alexander Van der Sant, you're quickly running out of time to really make those tires work and make that move happen.
Running out of time, running out of options as well, I guess, as we look now at that battle for 9th as well, where Jacob Oster runs up high with Russell just a little bit lower and trying to squeak on past. Separation has grown very slightly. It's a 10th here, it's a 10th there, but that gap now near as makes no difference. 5.5 seconds. It's going to require a caution to bring this race back into one big pack. Of course, 19 started, 19 running, 2 of them off of the leading lap. That's Robin Glennox 2 laps down, Rashad Craig 3 laps down. Weren't able to identify the moment for Rashad Craig where he had the issue that brought him back down onto pit road for a almost 70-second pit stop. Makes me wonder if maybe there was a pit road infringement, maybe on the exit there. Your championship leader, Brandon Traino, sits in 4th, not pushing the issue just yet. There is the look behind them as well. What do the seams do as well? We haven't talked too much about how those black, darker patches on the track, Andrew, will upset the handling of the car. If you're transitioning through them, through a corner, what does that do to the car's behavior?
Yeah, there definitely are certain seams that come into play, especially on the exit of both Turn 2 and Turn 4, towards the bottom side of the racetrack in particular. Coming out of 4, there's a really, really bad one that can just catch the back end of your car if you're not careful and send you off towards that great big grass infield that we have there. But in general, they're not as bad as they can be at some other tracks. But yeah, it's one of those tracks where they're not bad until suddenly they are bad, and you're catching the car at 220 miles an hour, and it's not very much fun.
Yeah, it's not bad until it tries to murder you. It's one of those situations. This is, if you're new to IndyCar racing, and you're just saying, oh, they're flat to the floor. It's easy, kind of. But this is high-speed problem solving with dire crash consequences, to steal a Joe Rogan line from MMA, where he says it's high-risk problem solving with dire physical consequences. At least the consequences here are virtual, and you're not going to eat a slap into the wall or a ride through the catch fence, which we've seen what that can do. But very much with a championship on the line, a lot of these drivers don't really want to push it. We don't talk often about strength of field. We like to focus on the race itself, but it is a strong strength of field, which means the drivers who are part of this top split, the 19 that have made the grid here today, all have good iRatings, which is our ELO system here on iRacing. It's your metric of speed. Upwards of 4,500 is the strength of field today. And Andrew, that means some good points on the board, very similar to what we were talking about last week when we were on the streets of Long Beach.
Yeah, good points on the board, and more importantly, especially for these drivers at the front, it means that you can trust the people that you're racing with as well. Obviously, all of these drivers, they're very familiar with one another, but even when you have the occasional interloper, when you see that iRating there, it just gives you that little bit of extra confidence that they probably know what they're doing. And certainly these drivers today have really proven that they can coexist really well as Alexander Van der Sant with another dive. This time he's got a draft from his teammate, though, so this might just vault Alexander Van der Sant up into this leading conversation here.
And notice how Blocker left him a lane. He didn't go all the way down to the white line. He tried to get that assistance up towards the front, and now will leave the lanes so Van der Sant can get his way to the point of the field. 4 wide on lap 63 of this race. Hold on to this one. Demerit tucks back into line. It's a power slide 1-2, but not for long. Blocker loses all his momentum, and here comes the freight train.
Yeah, that was a big checkup from Blocker, and unfortunately Demerit had nowhere to go and also had to back right out of it. And that's going to allow the likes of Robert Malechka to take advantage here too. I think that Alexander Van der Sant, if I'm being honest there, Arjuna, he kind of caught the i5G cars napping just a little bit with that move. They had been so content to just sit there, and Van der Sant really hadn't made that strong a move in a while, that I think they just caught them napping just that little bit, and now suddenly Demerit and Treno, they're realizing, hey, we're going back a little bit farther back in this train than we really wanted to, as Malechka has now gotten in front of Brandon Treno up into 5th position. So the i5G cars suddenly are looking not in the best position here.
Yeah, Malechka's at least back to where he started. Been a up and down day for him. Again, 3 wide they go. It's Blocker up high, trying to squeeze Harrington, feed him some dirty air as well, who will tuck down low. Blocker, though, with that momentum, will retake the lead. Now, can Van der Sant hold on to 3rd? Because I think that's more the question. Demerit already getting past him for 2nd.
Got power slide 1, 2, 3 on the bottom there, but it's Christopher Demerit who made that power move, and he really tried to keep that purple car down on the bottom there, and it fed Alexander Van der Sant a whole lot of aero wash there. Really nice driving for Van der Sant to pedal it there, but it's going to allow Brandon Treno an opportunity, and these top 3 are starting to break away just a little bit here.
Chris Wilhite down to pit lane with 2/3 of this race done, so splitting it exactly into 1/3 chunks is the number 3. It's not going to work out in his favor, I think. It was a good idea if we had got a caution at a good time. Unfortunately, now he's going to be a lap or 2 down and in danger of being trapped in the danger zone. As, well, here we go again. Just some 2 wide action, but again, these cars, these drivers really racing like it's the final 5 rather than the final 50 laps of this race.
And this time it's Christopher Demerit to the front. And this is the first time that we've really seen him make a strong move towards the front of this field. And it's no coincidence that he's making his move now in this final 1/3 of the race. This is prototypical Christopher Demerit stuff, where he just sits back, lets the race happen for that first 1/3, and now that it's starting to get down to crunch time, he's really starting to show just how strong that i5G car can be.
2 wide, 2 deep. Malechka's going to stick it the long way around. Harrington with a face full of dirty air that Adam Blocker fed him. And Malechka's found his way to the podium spots now. Here comes Blocker down low again. There's that 2nd grouping of cars. And Malechka runs the Demerit line around the outside, trying to make it a power slide 1 and 2.
Malechka got a huge head of steam coming down the back straightaway there, Arjuna, and it allowed him to carry that momentum into 3. He let off the throttle really smartly and then did an over-under on Christopher Demerit, and Malechka now to the front of this field. What a power move. That was 4 positions in just over a lap and a half.
When it works nicely. When it doesn't, you slide back to the tail end of this field, you reset, and you do it all over again. 30 laps into the run is Adam Blocker, the first of this leading group of cars to have come down pit lane along with Connor Harrington. We'd expect them back down in 5, maybe 10 laps from here. Maybe they try and undercut, who knows? Only the drivers would at this point. If you're Malechka, if you're Blocker, what can you do to work together here, Andrew, as we head into the final stages of the stint?
Yeah, I think that now is the time for Malechka and Blocker to really utilize that teammate connection and try and get as fast as they can go, basically, here. Christopher Demerit, we know that he's going to run the high line, so as long as Blocker is running that sort of mid-high line, it's really going to prevent Demerit from doing too much. And if I'm Demerit, I'm probably just content to let Blocker and Malechka trade places here, because they are going at least a few tenths quicker per lap than this battle right behind him is. We nearly had about 3 cars in the wall off of 2 there, Arjun.
Yeah, that was Van der Sant again, running in 7th at one point, but now back up to 5th, all by virtue of a sling down the inside through turn 1 and ramping the speed all the way, wrapping to turn 2. Traino
nearly put that in the wall there.
Yeah, that was very, very close, and he'll drop to the tail end of this field, this leading pack, and at one point it was 8 cars split by 1.5, now they're split by about 2.7. Traino's got some work to do.
Yeah, Traino needs to cool his tires down right now. I think he just needs to sit back at the back and just get some of that temperature back out of those tires, because, again, I just don't think that the i5G car is really working very well in that pack. Out front, where they can get the clean air on the nose, it's working really, really well, and Demerit's showing that, but just as soon as they get sort of back into that field, they just can't make the tires last quite as long as the rest of these teams can at the front here.
Let's have a look at that replay on board from the perspective of the King of the Bricks, as you see just up the hill. Oh, he actually does knock into the wall, but I think he might just have gotten away with that. We'll have to wait and see. Crane is already separated, from Newsom by about 1 and a bit seconds. Connor Harrington boxes. He's down on pit lane.
And I gotta say, that is such a helpless feeling when you have that wall coming closer and closer, and you pretty much know that you're either gonna hit it or just about hit it, and you're just so helpless. But there's nothing you can do by that point in time. So I've been there, been in Traino's shoes, and it's definitely not the best feeling. But yeah, Harrington down on pit lane here, and he is the first of the leaders to blink. And interestingly enough, Harrington doesn't have anyone to help him here. So the key for Connor Harrington here is where he blends back out. He might just come back in and around that Brandon Lichtenberg, Marco Brazil battle, and if he does, he could potentially use that as a slingshot to help him get back towards the front of the field. So it could end up being a very good move here for Connor Harrington to come in these few laps early.
I'll take a look, but he's blended in front of them. If anything, it's not worked out exactly how he would have wanted. Now, the pit stop time for Harrington was 7.9 as Blocker's in. Remember, Blocker and Harrington came in together in that first cycle of pit stops, but it's Blocker who's going to come down this time. Leaves Demerit, Malechka, Van der Sant, Crane, Traino, and Newsom. The cars in that leading 7 or 8 that are yet to box, but you can see Traino and Newsom dropped by the front of this field as Malechka holds to the inside, maybe indicating he's rolling to pit lane this time by.
Yeah, I think Malechka probably is going to go a couple more laps here. He was one of the last to stop the last time, but we do have Crane and Van der Sant down pit lane. But right now, the 1 and the 2 car, Malechka and Demerit, what they're trying to do is they're trying to extend this as long as they possibly can, because they have that clean air, they have the ability to really swap draft and carry that momentum and try and get as far as they can here. So here, as we see Connor Harrington, I think he's just about got the back end of Blocker's draft here, but it's going to be a touch and go for Connor Harrington to really get back on the back of Adam Blocker here.
Yeah, there's that separation. Now let's try and find where Adam Crane is in this picture. Crane's still yet to roll. He's gonna... I gotta remind myself that there is a full lap that will split Blocker. In fact, no, sorry.
No, Crane had issues on pit road here.
Yeah, that's what I was like. Look at the timing screen, very, very confused.
Because Van der Sant is right out in front of Adam Blocker here, so you can see that Van der Sant really used that extra lap and that extra momentum to his advantage. He's come out right with his power slide teammate. But Adam Crane, I think he had an issue getting onto pit lane, and it's cost him dearly here, Arjuna.
We'll grab a look at it when we can. At least for now, we'll focus on Malechka on pit road. So it's going to be interesting where he's going to cycle out in comparison. Ooh, Alexis Newsom, I believe that was, or maybe it was Ben Rinaldi. Ben Rinaldi, who I think sped because instantly hit the Mea Culpa Alt F4 button. Malechka into his box. Where's Blocker? Where's Van der Sant? They're almost 3 wide. Looks good, but not always the quickest, as Traino's boxing this time by, leaves Demerit still out there on the track. Van der Sant will look low on Blocker. Malechka's already up and off of pit road, which is crucial to his hopes. You could see the red and white down on that access road, building up that speed, building up the momentum, and he'll come out just into this group. He'll slightly cycle to the back, given he's still yet to build up to speed.
But crucially, he's come out right with his teammates here. So there's 3 power slide drivers, as well as the team talent with private label team height car of Connor Harrington here. And I can confirm, looking back at the replay here, that Adam Crane, it wasn't on the pit road, it was into his box. He had an absolutely disastrous attempt at boxing this car. He had to move forward and go backwards about 3 or 4 times.
We'll take a look at it in a sec, but Brandon Treno is 3+ seconds away from this grouping. That is vital, because it means that Treno's not a factor. Likely means Newsom is not a factor either. Here comes your race leader. Money stop must be delivered from the pit crew for Christopher Demerit's Team i5G number 1.
We've been here before with Christopher Demerit, and all it takes is absolutely nailing every part of this pit entry, and then he's in with a shot here. And there's nobody better than Christopher Demerit to try and make that happen. But as we've seen with his teammates, it's definitely not on the best footing here with just how fast this pack of cars that you see on screen here, with the 3 power slide drivers as well as Connor Harrington, they have just been tearing through these laps on these fresher tires, and it's made a huge difference here. I don't know if Demerit is going to have this draft when he gets all said and done.
There's Demerit, and I think he just rolled off a bit too slowly. He'll be in the pack, but at the tail end of it, it's a power slide 1, 2, and 3, because Connor Harrington has been boxed down to 4th, and for Christopher Demerit, who looks like he's got a good run, a good car in the clean air, he's got some time to build up, but crucially, no teammates to assist him.
Yeah, this is definitely not the end of the race that I think Christopher Demerit envisioned here, but the one thing that he does have that is worth mentioning is he does have much fresher tires than the cars in front of him, and that might just be the advantage he needs. But coming back from 5th in line on a track like this in the IndyCar is just going to be a very, very tall order, so he's really going to have to make hay while the sun shines here.
It's going to benefit power slide to run 1, 2, and 3. They can feed dirty air to basically any of the grooves behind them, which it's hard to understate just how potent that might be as a factor for the race win. Here's a look at the replay. You see Van der Sande in front of Crane as Crane tries to find his box. Locks the brakes, slides forward, has to back it up and then try and get back into line. And you can see the pain. You can see the time that it costs him as well. He's fallen even into the clutches of Jacob Oster and company.
Yeah, that was a good 10-second mistake there, unfortunately, for Adam Crane. And it really is a shame, because he was doing a very good job running a really nice race, a really smart race in that lead pack. And I think we were just about to see how strong that satellite car could have been, but unfortunately it's all gone for naught. But up at the front here, Connor Harrington has gotten around one of the power slide drivers in Robert Malechka, and that's going to be very, very important, because as you said, they were feeding dirty air to all 3 lines. Now they're not going to be able to do that, and it's all down to Van der Sande and Blocker at the front to try and fend off the others here.
Van der Sande really slowed the roll of Harrington, and in fact now will give the toe to Malechka to try and squeeze down low. Coming into turn 1, Demerit goes back up high where he's been running the vast majority of this race. Will get one, they're 4 wide. Malechka gets past his teammate Adam Blocker. 15 laps to go. What more could you ask for? We're in for one blockbuster of a finish.
What a move that was there. I don't think that was how the power slide drivers really drew that up, and it was all down to Christopher Demerit with the surprise on that outside line. I think that without Demerit there, Blocker could have easily sort of slid back up the track there, but with Demerit there, it really boxed him in there. But somehow they've all come out of that on okay on the other end, and somehow the power slide trio is back in front. I'm not quite sure how that happened.
Magic, clearly, because there's no rhyme or reason behind how they survived there. Now Van der Sande a little bit slow on the entry of the corner. Malechka will come around him, and down the inside to Demerit back up to 2nd, who blocks the nose off of Robert Malechka, and from 5th to 2nd in the blink of the eye, here comes 3 wide again into turn number 1.
That was a power move from Christopher Demerit there, but then he's sort of the meat in the sandwich here. But that car with the fresh tires, you can really see just the advantage that Christopher Demerit's getting with those tires. And just like that, I think that he's going to be able to complete this pass here in the next couple of laps, because he's looking so strong.
if you're that third power slide car, what do you do? 3 wide to the stripe. Demerit will lead at the line. He's got a nose in front of Blocker. He's got the full car in front of Blocker. Demerit leads with Malechka, Blocker, Van der Sande, and Harrington behind. And Blocker really starting to drop like a rock. In fact, he's going to hold up Harrington as well. Slots back into line. Not the worst call in the world. Now remember, Malechka's got the freshest of the tires for the power slide trio. He might be the one to fight with Demerit for the race win.
I think at this point, if you're Adam Blocker, you need to cool your tires off. You've been going full tilt here with your teammates and with your competition to try and maintain the front of that field, but now those tires and those tire temps are really getting too far up there for Adam Blocker, so just ride around here for just a little bit, try and cool them off, maybe get another run here in about 5 laps, but you're quickly running out of time, and it's quickly looking like it's going to be a 3-horse race here with Malechka, Demerit, and Van der Sande sticking it on that outside lap after lap.
Now, we always say that when you fight, it looks great, but it can be slow. Behind this top 5, Traino and Newsom, they're marginally quicker. We're talking a half a tenth, if that, per lap. There's not enough time for them to close to be a factor in the race win. Demerit leads, and behind him looks like Harrington has squeezed the nose of Van der Sande, who will now drop back to 5th. Power slide starting to be in a bit of trouble after controlling the opening portion of this run to the checkered flag.
Yeah, I think that Van der Sande and Blocker especially were just a little bit too anxious. They were doing a little bit too much driving early on in this stint, and it's just killed their tires just that little bit. Harrington was the one who was sort of sitting back and preserving his tires, and he's done a great job of that. But up front, it's Malechka and Demerit, and I think that right now, at least, those are the 2 strongest cars in this front pack.
Harrington hypothetically has the most worn tires of everyone, although he's been somewhat content to conserve and wait for these final 10 laps or so. Demerit leads across the line with 92 done. Final couple of laps to go. Here comes a 3 wide. Malechka's down low, and crucially for Demerit, Harrington being up high means he can't slide up the track that he'd want to. He's going to get close, but Harrington's got second.
Yeah, that was a nice move from Harrington. He really anticipated the momentum well and put Demerit in a position that he really couldn't do anything there. And Harrington, despite having the oldest tires, as you say, he's really showing a lot of strength here. I don't think that he's maybe held back throughout the course of this race, and now he's really starting to show his hand. But you see Demerit and Harrington lap after lap, they're fighting it out on that outside line, and it's just allowing Rob Malechka to really sort of use that bottom lane to his advantage. But the other thing that I want to draw your attention to, with 7 laps to go, we have traffic right in front of the leaders, Archie.
It was Matt Hollabaugh as well as Trace Shadid in that 7 car, 3 wide off of turn 4. It's Malechka that will have the nose in front as they run towards the checkered flag, or excuse me, the start-finish line. I think he held it by about a thousandth of a second as well. Van der Sande's found his way up forward as Harrington slides backward. For those cars that pitted earlier than the 2 up front, it looks like timing that run and waiting till the final couple of laps might be crucial. Harrington the one cooling the tires off now.
Yeah, and it just goes to show just how important cooling those tires off. Not 5 laps ago, we thought that Adam Blocker and Alexander Van der Sande might be done. They might not have anything left in those tires. But you really can get just that little bit of tire life back in the car if you go to the back and cool them off, as they did. And now we're seeing Adam Blocker. He's back into this fight, and he's not willing to let his teammate or Demerit have their way with this race right now.
The cars behind are starting to close, but again, not by a large enough delta lap after lap to be a factor, unless these cars out front have an almighty monumental wreck coming through on the white flag lap. 4 to go, this time by... If you're one of these drivers, Andrew, do you want to be high? Do you want to be low? How do you position your car?
I want to be in the lead where Robert Malechka is. Why? Because it's going to allow me to get that draft from Matt Hollabaugh right in front. And he's just far enough back that he's going to get a nice draft, but close enough that he gets a nice draft, but far enough back that he's not too affected by clean air. So you're going to see exactly what's happening right now is suddenly they're all single file. That's because Malechka and Demerit are right in that draft of Matt Hollaba, and it's really going to have an impact here.
Demerit goes down low. Can he slide up and get in front of Malechka before they round out of turn 2? Yes, he does. 2 to go. This time by the lap traffic will play a deciding factor in the race. The red and white back low through turn 3. As they come to race towards the line, the next flag ends the race. Whether it's the checkered, whether it's the caution, these drivers know they're racing to the finish.
2 to go, and Robert Malechka and Christopher Demerit have been side by side for laps on end here, and there's no sign of slowing down. The real question is, can Adam Blocker get back to the back of these two? Can Alexander Van de Sant mount a charge, or will Connor Harrington somehow pull out a miracle and come back from all the way back in 5th on this final lap? We're about to find out here, Arjuna.
Oh, and it's close off the exit of turn 4. Demerit's got the momentum and the nose in front, but down low with the white flag in the air is Adam Blocker. 3 wide and a power move to the lead. Adam Blocker leads as through turn 1 and 2 we come for the final time. It's a power slide 1 and 2. Demerit searching to try and get down low. Malechka says, no, you're not. I'm getting down low. It's a drag race through turn 3 and through turn 4. Can Malechka beat his teammate Adam Blocker to the line? Can Blocker get those vital championship points? A caution-free race here at Auto Club and a photo finish. But on top, when all things are said and done, is Adam Blocker by 9 thousandths of a second. An incredible race. I'm still in shock that we didn't get a single caution through the race today. But Auto Club always delivers, and today it delivers another victory for Adam Blocker.
What an absolutely spectacular race that was, Arjuna. What a finish. And it all happened on the exit of turn 4 with coming to the white flag. That's where Christopher Demerit and Rob Malechka, they chose to get really, really close. Demerit sort of squeezed Malechka down. They both had to just get out of the throttle just a little bit, and that was all the room that Adam Blocker needed to sling it down the inside into turn 1. And what a strong way to finish that race with a drag race with his teammate to the line, 9 thousandths of a second. What a race, what a finish.
Remember as well, we're not expecting Blocker to be around for the vast majority of some of the upcoming races in the Season 2 of 2022 in the iRacing IndyCar Open Championship. This result might not be vital for his championship hopes, but very much vital to building that momentum for Powerslide Motorsports into the month of May. Blocker, Malechka, 1 and 2 for Powerslide, with just 9 thousandths splitting the two of them. And your pole position man, Christopher Demerit, manages to secure the 3rd and final step on our podium here today. Alexander Van der Sant up into 4th for him after a good drive starting on the edge of the top 10. Adam Blocker, by the way, +8, one of our biggest movers, with Connor Harrington completing the top 5. Brandon Treno had a brush with the wall and recovers to 6, some good championship points for him, while his Team i5G teammate was company till the end, Alexis Newsom in 7th. Adam Crane made a mistake on pit road that dropped him back into the second group. The peloton chasing the leaders, but at the very end he does stand on top of them, finishing in 8th with Jacob Oster and Mark Murphy completing the top 10. Alexander Russell, Brendan Lichtenberg, Marco Brazil, Trace Shadid, the final cars on the lead lap, while Matt Hollaba was all by himself, 1 lap down. Chris Wilhite tried a different strategy, did not work in his favor. He finishes 16th in front of Robin Glennox, Rashad Craig, and our only retiree, Ben Rinaldi, who hit the I'm done button, the Alt F4 combo, after speeding on pit entry. And so that leads us quite nicely into our post-race show and our post-race interviews. And we're now joined by Adam Blocker, victorious. Adam, caution-free. I don't think anyone really expected that at Auto Club, but what a finish. It did look as though basically it could have gone any way inside the top 5. Talk to us about that last lap pass to get to the lead.
Yeah, so, oh man, the whole race was just really good, like caution-free and just really clean racing up there, up front, especially between us and i5G. Yeah, I mean, basically once a couple of their cars, Treno and Newsom had problems and Oster fell back, it was clear that it was 3 of us versus Connor and Chris. And I mean, Connor and Chris were doing a good job to fight and and make it a really good race. But ultimately, we have 3 cars on a super speedway race. We've been on the other side of that so many times with I5G, so it was nice to finally be in the opposite position. And yeah, Rob, Alex, and I were obviously working together, and Rob knew that if he gave me insight into one there, it was going to be one of us that won. So that's what we did, or that's what he did, and that was a really smart move. I think he could have won, or maybe even should have won from the line he was in, but ultimately I brought it home, so really happy with that.
7 days from now, it's time for what is now basically an annual visit to the Green Hell, an 8-lap race at the Nürburgring Nordschleife. What are you expecting from that one? Both tires being in play is going to cause its own little bits of drama, and we always get some new faces showing up as well.
Yeah, I haven't done any laps in a year in this car, so it'll be interesting to get back in and see how the new tires handle there. Definitely have some redemption there because I was leading last year. Looked like I had the speed to win, but just made a mistake and cost myself the win. So looking to correct that this year. And yeah, it's always just a ton of fun, all sorts of different setup stuff. But then at the end of the day, you just got to drive it, and it's just a really challenging track. So yeah. And yeah, it just also shows how diverse the series is, going from what's kind of a packy 2-mile oval to the Nordschleife. So yeah, just really interesting.
Congrats on the win, Adam. Great to have you back in the field, and looking forward to 7 days from now at the Green Hell.
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody at Powerslide for both the work on the setup, and then also Rob and Alex for working with me and working as a team. And yeah, it was a really good race. See you guys at Nordschleife.
So that was Adam Blocker after a busy weekend for him on the pit wall with Junkos and his duties trackside with the NTT IndyCar Series. We're now joined by his teammate Robert Malechka. And Rob, Adam basically said it could have been either you or him when you worked together. How crucial was the teamwork there at the front of the field? 3 of the top 5 cars powerslide in those final 10 laps.
Yeah, firstly, you gotta say thanks to the whole team for working on the setup. I couldn't really help much today, but it really came down to, there was more power slide up there than i5G, and that's kind of what ultimately won us the race. Going into that last lap, I gave Adam the bottom just so we could at least guarantee a 1 and 2. Probably still the right move to do that. Just kind of got a bad exit off of turn 2 there and couldn't get enough of a run down the back and kind of set him up. But yeah, good finish for us. First, second, and fourth. Definitely, we'll take that, especially with Chris up there. He's an alien at these tracks. So, great day for a power slide.
And I'll ask you, like I did with Adam, about what's on the horizon next week. A trip to the Nordschleife. How excited are you, Rob? And remember who you're talking to here.
So, I have yet to do a lap ever at that track. So, it's going to be a very steep learning curve. I'll probably take the Trano approach and just hate the track. But yeah, I mean, honestly, if I can just finish that race, that's probably a win for me. But it should be a fun track to learn.
Well, as good an answer as I could have hoped for. Congrats on the run, Rob, and looking forward to seeing how you do and how you survive 7 days from now.
Yep, thanks. Me too.
So that was Robert Malechka, and now our pole position man, Christopher Demerit. Chris was always going to be tough with, 3 team cars working together against you, but you showed some good pace, some good qualifying performance as well from the whole i5G team. Just looked as though in dirty air the car struggled just that little bit more than you wanted it to.
I think the biggest battle during the race was just, battling 3 team cars that were working together. Well, at the end too. The car felt really good in traffic. Especially up high. If I could, actually run up high and there's no one on my outside, I was in a pretty good position. It was just Blocker and Robert were just going to position the cars in the last 2 laps to kind of box me out no matter what. So, this is how it is. So I'll take P3. I was a lot of fun anyway.
Good to have you back on a Monday, Chris, and I know you're looking forward to next week as well.
Is next week Nordschleife?
It is.
Oh yes, I'll be in the co-driver seat.
Yeah. Can we not convince you to go and do a couple of races, even though I know what you have planned for next Monday?
I could do a couple of races as long as it's not the broadcast.
There we go. Okay, at least there's a commitment. Maybe even I'll come and join you, Chris. For those who don't know what we're talking about, they'll have to tune in a week from now. Good job on the run, and looking forward to giving some entertainment to people next week.
Thanks. Yep.
Krista Demerit rounds off our post-race coverage with our final step of the podium and the interview there. Let's have a look forward. And of course, I had to ask all three drivers about it, Andrew. The Nürburgring Nordschleife. It's such an intimidating challenge. 170-odd corners, 25-odd kilometers. Once you know the track no matter what car you're in. But for our small community, I think this is the bigger challenge. Just figuring out your way around the track. Once you get past that, then you've also got to build the setup. Then you've got to figure out how two compounds will work. There's so many questions yet to be answered here.
The Nürburgring Nordschleife is such a unique challenge, not only in iRacing, but in the real world as well. And as you say, knowing the track is definitely the most important and the most difficult challenge that all of these drivers will face. But don't discount just how inch perfect they'll also have to be in execution as well. Just this track was not made for cars this fast or this big, and it is a narrow, twisting and turning trip through the German wilderness, and it is absolutely incredible to watch, incredible to drive, but it requires, as I say, inch perfection in terms of the ability of all these drivers in order to complete these 8 laps at Nordschleife.
I think you summed it up perfectly. And the bigger question that we really have is, with both compounds required, the blacks will be your preferred tire. Will the reds even survive one lap? That is really the question. Same time, same place. 7 days from now, April 18th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Join us for what is bound to be a bumpy roller coaster ride in the German hills. But for now, we are done. Remember, if you're not already subscribed to us here at RaceSpotTV, hit that red button, hit the bell next to it as well to get notified every single time we go live with some of the great sim racing things that we get to cover. More IndyCar action coming your way starting tonight. We have the Lionheart Speedway Series heading to the Pocono Mountains for the Graphics Esports Pocono 300, the first of its Triple Crown races, while this Saturday, join us for the Lionheart IndyCar Series Triple Crown 500 miles at Pocono. It's going to be fun. Andrew Kinsella will be racing and hoping for another good finish there. For now, though, we bid you farewell. A caution-free race at the Auto Club Speedway. Who would have had that on their bingo cards when we started off at the beginning of a brand new iRacing week? Plenty more action to come. You can catch it all here live on RaceSpotTV. But for the team that helps put all these events on, for Andrew Kinsella joining me in the commentary booth, my name is Arjuna Kankipati. Saying goodbye for now. What a finish we had. This season has had a little bit of everything, and next week we'll sprinkle on some more chaos to the party. Congratulations to Adam Blocker, winner here at the Auto Club Speedway.